Part 2. So we last left off where we were talking about the interconnections between the Shade Room and the Potter's house, correct? So while doing some sleuthing, I went ahead and actually found their employee roster. And check this out. While doing some digging on the Apollo app, I was actually able to find the roster of employees at the Shade Room. Now, you would think that a company that large would have more than 24 employees, but here we are. Now, the first employee I found was Amy Ike. Amy Ike used to work for Trinity Broadcasting Network, and she's actually a makeup artist for the Shade Room. Now, if you thought that her name sounded familiar, well, let me tell you whose relative I just found.
Happy Sunday, family. What a pleasure it is to be with you all on this day. I am so excited for what God has purposed to do in and through your life.
Well, Stephanie, we're proud too. But that's not all. Check out this other employee that I found at the Shade Room. Now, meet Taylor Bickman. They were actually a digital marketing manager for TD Jakes Ministries. And what do you have it? They now work at the Shade Room. This article is actually pulled from the LA Sentinel, and here you can see Angela and Stephanie Ike discussing their series that they have with the Potter's house. This is actually a podcast called The Same Room. The Same Room is in their third season, and they are actually funded in part by the Potter's house. And that's exactly what happens when you have the media in your pocket. When a church like the Potter's house has one of the largest Black publications in their back pocket, well, no wonder we don't hear stories about Cora or even Jermaine. And if you didn't know, back in 2009, Jermaine actually had an incident where he was caught doing some lewd things in the park. And even then, when he had other litany of charges that stemmed past 2014 when the Shade Room was birthed, they still never discussed it. So now that we're all realizing that the Shade Room is not news, let's actually get into what the BuzzFeed actually discovered about the Shade Room. So the BuzzFeed actually reached out to a lot of the old school bloggers before the Shade Room had actually become birthed. The BuzzFeed actually got a quote from Juana Thomas, and they stated that the Shade Room is filth. And I couldn't agree more. They stated that it is the very definition of toxic waste. And they also stated that in a tweet, block me if you follow or engage in the Shade Room. Angela actually reached out to BuzzFeed and stated that she wouldn't be getting as much flack if she was a white publication, which is not true because the Shade Room actually doesn't produce journalism. Angela actually stated that she wouldn't be getting as much flack if she were a white publication, which is absolutely incorrect. The Shade Room actually produces content for celebrities that they like and suppress content for celebrities that they may be protecting or dislike. The Shade Room also pumps out a lot of these small images and think pieces that they decide to call news, when in actuality, it isn't. A lot of their publication does not offer any nuance and does not dissect into the story that gets down to the point of it. And so because of that, this is the reason why a lot of roommates are leaving. And that's not all. In part 3, we're actually going to be dissecting the interview that Kyle did from the Neighborhood Talk about why he left the Shade Room. And don't worry, I actually sent him an email.